Hello everyone, this is DragonCard7 here, and it's about time to do a new card review. I know it's been a while since I haven't done a new card review for a while, so if I sound like a bit rusty, then I apologize. Now that I got real life pushed into the sidelines for now, I think it's about time that I actually get started with a new card review. So within this card review, I got a request from two people that actually requested the same card, which those two are Gen Realm 123 and Mr. Tom D. Qatar. And both of them wanted me to review Brionac, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. Oh boy. If you are a big fan of Brionac, which I am, and if you heard that he got banned from the September 2012 ban list, you're pretty pissed off, are you? Brionac was a great monster, and I could definitely see why he did got banned because of the current new water support and all that, but that's just me, and I shouldn't be ranting. I should be doing a card review, god damn it. So, with no further ado, let's actually get started with the new card review, shall we? Let's go check out its artwork. Brionac Dragon of the Ice Barrier does look really cool for a dragon, I mean sea serpent. The thing looks like he's made out completely out of ice, and I think that's pretty cool. You see some nice detail with its head, with the 6 horns I believe are around his head. They look like horns. You can see like the cold air coming out of its mouth. It has 2 red eyes and a yellow shard on its forehead. The wings on this thing are really highly detailed, and it looks like shades of ice looking like wings, and that's really fucking cool. If you can see closely, you can see its tail, which it looks like a star with some icicles on the top part of the star, which that's pretty nice as well. The background has a nice snow-like detail into it. The artwork is really good and all, but here's the thing. Do you guys remember back then when I was bitching about it being a sea serpent from my number 17 Leviathan Dragon review? Flashback. And at least thank God that he's a dragon. Unlike some dragon that is a freaking ice barrier sea serpent. Yeah, I gotten a whole lot better since back then. Yeah, I'm still holding my statement. It looks more of a dragon than a sea serpent, in my opinion. I mean, if it didn't have those wings, then yeah, maybe it would look more of a sea serpent, but to me, it looks more of a dragon. So why call it a sea serpent? Even though technically sea serpents are water dragons, I just don't see so many water dragons with wings. Maybe some of them do, that's just me, but I just see this thing more as a dragon, not as a sea serpent. Now I think about it, if this thing was a dragon from the very start, then this thing would have been banned a very long time ago than now, because so many opportunities of pulling off dragon combos with this thing would be crazy if it was dragon. But overall, I really do like the artwork. It does look really nice. I like the details, the backgrounds. Everything about this card's art is pretty nice. So for its score, when it comes to its art, it gets a 4.5 out of 5. Let's move on to its effect. It needs 1 tuner and 1 or more non-tuning monsters. You can discard any number of cards to the graveyard to target the same number of cards on the field. Return those targets to the hand. This effect is really, really good, I do have to say. Like, what if your opponent has a very strong monster or has spell or trap cards that might affect you in the future turns? So, just use Brio's effect and discard those same number of cards, well, in this case, 3 cards to get rid of that monster and those 2 spell or trap cards face down. To send those cards back to your opponent's hand, and then you should be home free for the turn. But be cautious, because here's the bad thing about its effect. What if you don't have any cards in your hand? Then that means Brio's effect is absolutely useless. And the cards don't go to the graveyard, they go to your opponent's hand. So that means he'll have an opportunity to use them again. If you target a Synchro monster or an Exceed monster, they'll go back to the extra deck, not to your opponent's hand. Remember that. And if an Exceed monster gets hit by Brio's effect, the Exceed monster will go back to the extra deck, but the materials will go straight to the graveyard. Why? I don't know, but that's how the rules are played. But either way, this effect is really good, despite the little problem with no cards in your hand, but actually this will be good for a deck type that I will be mentioning in deck choices. So anyways, for its effect, it gets a 4.5 out of 5. Okay, off to deck choices. When it comes to deck choices, the only deck that I can most likely think of is not from Ice Barriers, believe it or not. For one thing, Ice Barriers is not exactly the best archetype out there. It's not even top tier material. But if you want to use an Ice Barrier deck, then by all means, go for it. I'm not stopping you. But there's actually another archetype that actually works well with Brionac and it's not ice barriers, and that will be Infernities, believe it or not. Infernities work extremely well, especially for Brio's cake. Like, what if you need an empty hand? Because in Infernities, their effects are extremely well if you have no cards in your hand. And with Brionac's case, by getting rid of every single goddamn card from your hand just to have no cards in your hand, it's really good in my opinion. So with deck choices today, I'm going to be showing you cards that will go great for any Infernity deck. Let's talk about the most common card that's needed for any Infernity deck, and that will be Infernity Archfiend. This thing is pretty much the most common thing that you really do need to get for an Infernity deck. When you draw this card from your deck, and if you have no other cards in your hand, just reveal this card and you can special summon it. And once you special summon this card this way, when you have no cards in your hand, you can add one Infernity from your deck to your hand, which to me, that's a really good effect. Pretty much 3 copies of these will actually make the deck really good, especially when it comes to Infernities. Another good Infernity to add from your deck is the level 1 tuner Infernity Avenger. Pretty much, if any of your Infernity monsters gets destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon this thing from your graveyard. The level of this card will automatically become the level of the monster that was destroyed by battle. So pretty much, it could be not just a level 1 tuner, but it could also be a possible level 4 if it was Infernity Archfiend, or probably a few other Infernities that I'm going to be mentioning through deck choices. Another really good tuner for the deck is Infernity Beetle. When you have no cards in your hand, you can tribute this card to special summon 2 Infernity Beetles from your deck. That means you can have more synchro tuning power, so you can sync up for multiple types of synchro based monsters. This is not recommended, but I think this Infernity is really cool. Infernity Destroyer. When you have no cards in your hand, and if you destroy an opponent's monster and send it to your graveyard, you can automatically inflict 16 points of damage to your opponent. And it's a level 6, and its attack is 2300. It may be 100 points shorter like Jinzo, or 200 points lower than Summon Skull, but to me, Infernity Destroyer is a really good card, and plus, it's a level 6. And there's some good rank 6 Exceed monsters out nowadays. Another good card that's coming very soon of the upcoming Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's manga is Infernity General. When you have no cards in your hand, you can banish this card from your graveyard to target 2 level 3 or lower Infernity monsters in your graveyard. You can special summon them from your graveyard, but their effects are negated. So think of it this way. Let us say you chose 2 level 3 Infernity monsters to special summon from General's effect. That will give you a good chance to exceed summon for probably number 30 Acid Golem, and plus he has a very strong monster for a level 7. A really recommended Infernity monster that I will highly suggest putting in is Infernity Mirage. Even though it cannot be special summoned from the graveyard, but here's the good part about this card. If you have no cards in your hand, you can tribute this card to select 2 Infernity monsters in your graveyard, and then you can special summon them. Most likely you can use this to help you summon out a few cards that you can use for synchroing, or most likely use them for exceeding. Or you can use them all in general for other methods of winning the game. Another good Infernity monster to put in an Infernity deck is Infernity Necromancer. Once this thing is automatically normal summoned onto the field, you can automatically switch him to defense mode. And when you have no cards in your hand, this card automatically gains the effect of, once per turn, you can special summon 1 Infernity monster in your graveyard instead of Infernity Necromancer. So, in other words, it's a pretty kick-ass defensive monster reborn for Infernities, or called the Haunted. Now let's go on to other monsters that you can put into your deck that are not Infernities, but they work extremely well. And one of them is my all-time favorite female monster, Torguide from the Underworld. Because this deck is pretty much filled with level 3 Fiend monsters, it's most likely you're going to be needing Torguide in this deck so you can use it for an Exceed summon. I highly recommend it to anyone. This may be a weird card to put into your deck, but in my opinion, I think it works well, and that will be Fabled Raven. Because once per turn, you can discard any number of cards from your hand, and if you do so, not only his attack will be increased by 400 for each card you discarded, but his level will increase by the same number of cards you discarded as well. But not only this will be good for synchroing, but this will also be good for you having no cards in your hand so you can continue to pull off more Infernity plays. On to the synchros. Most likely Infernity Doom Dragon will be a good obvious choice for the Infernity deck because of its great effect, and plus it belongs into the Infernity archetype. And what he does is once per turn, if you have no cards in your hand, select one monster your opponent controls, destroy that monster and inflict damage to your opponent equal to half of that monster's attack. Even though Infernity Doom Dragon cannot attack after you use this effect, but at least this will give you a good chance to get rid of that really high attack monster that Infernity Doom Dragon cannot handle of destroying. Though strangely enough, this is not an Infernity based monster, but its effect that's so similar to Infernity's that it's really good for Infernity deck, and that'll be Void Ogre Dragon. Pretty much, once per turn, during either player's turn, when your opponent activates a spell or trap card, and when you have no cards in your hand, negate the activation and destroy it. I highly recommend this for any Infernity players out there. On to the spell and trap cards. The most recommended spell card will most likely be Infernity Launcher. Once per turn, you can send one Infernity monster from your hand to the graveyard, and when you have no cards in your hand, you can send this card from the field to the graveyard to select up to 2 Infernity monsters in your graveyard and special summon. It's a great way to summon up more Infernities onto the field, and plus it works when you have no cards in your hand. Another good spell card is Into the Void. Once you activate this, activate only when you have 3 or more cards in your hand. Draw 1 card. During the end phase of this turn, discard all cards from your hand. This will be a good chance for you to draw some extra cards, and if you really do need no cards in your hand, that's no problem, because within the end of the turn, all those cards in your hand will be discarded to the graveyard. So not only you'll get an extra draw power, but you'll also get a good chance of getting rid of all the cards from your hand. On to trap cards. I don't highly recommend this, but I see this card in the anime and actually worked quite well, and that'll be Full Salvo. This card pretty much works is pretty much send your entire hand to the graveyard, and your opponent gets inflicted 200 points of damage for each card that was sent to the graveyard by the effect. So pretty much you have a full hand of 5 cards. You activate the trap card. You discard all the cards from your hand to the graveyard. So pretty much 2 times 5, that's 10. So your opponent will lose 1,000 life points, and pretty decent if you ask me. Another trap card I will recommend is Infernity Break. Activate only when you have no cards in your hand. Select one Infernity monster in your graveyard, remove it from play. Select one card your opponent controls and destroy it. It works well with me because what if you need to destroy a certain card your opponent controls and it's really bad news? Just remove your Infernity monster from play when you have no cards in your hand and destroy that target. And now for the most recommended trap card for any Infernity deck, and that is Infernity Barrier. Activate only when your opponent activates a spell card, trap card, or even a monster effect. If you control a face-up attack position Infernity monster and you have no cards in your hand, negate the activation of that card and destroy it. Really good, because what if your opponent activates something really devastating that could really fuck you up? And when you have no cards in your hand, and if you also have a face-up attack positioning Infernity monster, just negate the effect and destroy it. So yes, by deck choices, the most recommended deck that I would highly suggest to put Brionac in, and that would be Infernity. Originally in deck choices, I was going to give this card a score of a 5 out of 5, but due to the fact that this card is officially banned now, and that really fucking sucks, I have to downgrade its score a bit. So for deck choices, it's going to get a 4 out of 5. Alright, time for the final results. Overall, Brionac Dragon the Ice Barrier is one really awesome synchro monster in general. I love its art, I love its effect, and as for deck choices, it will be good in Infernity decks, even though this card is banned. So when it comes to my overall score of Brionac Dragon of the Ice Barrier, it gets a 4.5 out of 5. So there you have it, guys. That is my card review on Brionac Dragon of the Ice Barrier. And thank you GenGenRun123 and Mr. Tom D. Guitar for allowing me to reveal this card for you. Links of their channels will be down in the description box down below. Now this is the part where I say if you guys have any cards you want me to review, like requests and all that, I'm gonna hold requests on hold for a while. I have a huge list of requests that I need to get finished, so I really need to get that list done and over with. So remember guys, comment, rate, subscribe, and this is Dragon Core 7 signing out, and ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have a very good day.